Have you ever walked away from a conversation with your teenager thinking, ugh, that did not go the way I wanted it to go? What if the issue is not your communication skills, but your stress level? Today, we're sitting down with teen parenting expert Terri Lee, and we're exploring how anxiety affects parent teen communications, why connection matters more than control, and one simple shift that can help you stay grounded even when parenting feels overwhelming. Do you want to achieve your goals, but anxiety is tripping you up? Like to keep those fun weekend plans, but depression has you counseling again? Hey, I'm Lori, dog mom, lover of nature, and hygge enthusiast. Positive psychology skills help me overcome chronic severe PTSD. If you're ready to learn how to overcome your anxiety and depression and rediscover happiness and purpose in life, then get your cozy on and let's get started. Welcome back to Practical Solutions for PTSD. I am so excited you're here today. I have a very special treat for you. We are going to be bringing a teen parenting expert on board today to talk about how your stress, your anxiety could be impacting your ability to communicate effectively with your teen. And she's going to provide some very practical tips on how to correct that. So that's coming up. Super excited about it. I did want to remind you guys that if you would like to get the boundary setting worksheet, it is free. You just need to go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/podcast. There's a banner right at the top. You just click on the button there to send you to a worksheet. We'll get that out to you right away. So just go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/podcast and request that boundary setting worksheet today. So I want to get to the interview I had with Terri Lee right here around the corner, but I want to give you just a little bit of background before we jump into the podcast. So Terri Lee is a Christian mom, a tutor grandmother, a formal social worker, and the host of Connect with Your Teens podcast. She helps Christian moms rebuild trust and connection with their teens through Christ-centered communication, practical relationship skills, and emotional awareness. Through her coaching, mentoring, and podcast, Terri equips moms to move from frustration and fear to deeper connection, confidence, and influence in their relationships with their teens. So sit back, relax, enjoy this phenomenal interview. I know that you'll enjoy the conversation with Terri as much as I did. I'm so happy to welcome a special friend of mine today, Terri. She's a fellow podcaster, and she has the podcast Connect with Your Teens. And I'm bringing her here today because I don't have teens, but I know some of y'all out there have relationships that you want to be able to strengthen and to help. And sometimes when you're dealing with trauma, stress, anxiety, depression, whatever that could be, it has a direct impact on relationships. And I've talked about this before and how important it is that we address that and try to counter some of the negative impacts we have on our relationships when we're dealing with the trauma. And I wanted to bring an expert in how to deal with your teens and to connect with them and to try to counter some of the stress and anxiety and making sure that you're supporting that relationship. And if the relationship is damaged, how to repair it, etc. So we're bringing Terri here as our expert, and I'm very happy to have you on board, Terri. I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to introduce yourself, tell people what you do, about your podcast, etc.
Okay, great. Well, Lori, thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to share with your audience and break this down because it's a rough time with teens, a time when you're in the middle of it. But I am a mom of 3 adult kids. All my kids are in their 30s right now, and I've got 8 grandchildren, 6
Oh,
and under. 6 and under. So it's a wild experience. And fortunately, everyone's getting a little bit older. There's not quite so many crying and, fighting and that kind of thing. But my experience as a social worker in the past has been very helpful in many ways in just connecting with my kids, even though we had rough times during their teen years, which is why I do what I do, is I had all the skills, at least I thought I did. But when I was into the heart of what they were experiencing and actually raising them myself, it was like, okay, listening, what is that? I just want them to finish their chores or do what, get the things done I need to do, finish their schoolwork. And so anyway, I love helping moms build trust and connection with their kids through their communication, which is so powerful because as you know, the the generation gap, the communication gap is wide. It can be very wide in these years. And there are so many simple things that we can do to help bridge those gaps and rebuild connection when it, gets kind of pulled apart in those years. So I love to help moms move from frustration and fear to peace and confidence and really be able to experience the conversations and the relationship they want with their kids. And I'm blessed that now, 15, 20 years later, since I started this, we all have great relationships and it's been fun. And we've used our skills a lot over the years because even as they get older, it's the situations, the problems change, but there's still tension and stress, and you need to work through that.
Yes, that is present in every relationship I've ever been in.
Yes.
There are moments of tension and stress, and good communication skills help with everything. But then I love how you niche down and you're able to help with teens because that can be such an emotionally ridden time for both parent and child.
Mhm.
Your child's going through all these hormonal changes and they're growing up and experiencing the world, and you're turning them loose, at least in degrees, to be an adult. And, the anxiety and stress on the parents' side, did I do my
Mhm.
job right? And then you add on top of that, if the adult is going through any kind of trauma themselves, and it could be triggering their trauma,
Mhm.
or they're dealing with stress, or they're struggling with depression, or whatever that could be, and it just adds layers on that. So when you're experiencing that yourself and you're dealing with anxiety and stress, how does that show up in our conversation with our teens? Maybe we're not even realizing it. It just kind of slips in there.
Yeah, that's a great question. Uh, what I've seen is anxiety and stress in our lives. I think back to when I was a mom of, teens, that it often came out as managing and trying to help, being the fixer or, trying to fix their problems, trying to explain or over explain or lecture, whatever word you want to use. I think I did it in all versions with my kids on how my ideas or your ideas, you've got the experience, you've got the wisdom. And so they really work. And you want your kids to understand that. You want them to learn from you, right? You don't want them to make the same mistakes. We try to
Right.
protect them. So it can show up like that. It can show up with questioning things and asking questions. Maybe it's just to simply connect with your kids, or maybe it's to find out what you don't know that they're doing that you're scared about, But what it comes across to them as interrogating, right? So what we think is just super, like just trying to ask a question, they're like, oh, like the spotlight on them in an interrogation room, and then it just causes more uh, distance, more disconnection. And so, behind all of that, whether it's all those things or whether you're trying to monitor everything they're doing or controlling what they're doing, it really is coming through because of the fear we've got, the stress and anxiety. I don't know how much you talk about that, but oftentimes when I'm stressed, when I'm anxious, there is some fear behind that, like afraid I'm not going to do a good enough job, anxious that this isn't going to turn out the way that I want it to. It's like all those fears of the unknown. And it's just when fear starts driving our communication, it just causes separation. And when you're navigating all the things in these teen years, especially today with social media, the computer in your hand, I mean, all of that has added a whole nother layer, and it's not going away, right? And so just what's happening in the brain when our kids are on phones, when we're on phones. I mean, I have to kind of watch myself even now, right? And so it just shows up in these communication patterns that tend to distance rather than connect. And oftentimes, because we're trying to get them to do or to be someone or do something that we think is going to be best for them. And that's kind of what that fear kind of drives under that. So it's important to recognize that, really.
So, what are some signs that a parent might see that, like, oops, I just did that? What are some red flags they could see in their own conversation or in the reaction of their teens that can let them know that they just crossed over to the fixing side a
Okay.
little too much, or
Well,
going into interrogation? Or,
mhm.
what are some signs that they're letting their own stress and their own fear influence their communication?
Oh yeah, that's great. One of them is, why did you do it that way? What were you thinking? Okay. It's just this, we just hit it head on. The interrogate, I mean, that's a lot of the interrogation, the questions, the things like, well, where were you? Who are you with? What time are you there from? I mean, all those kinds of things that come across that way that put them off. And it really, it 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 destroys the trust that we have because we are not showing that belief that we have in them. Oftentimes kids think, well, you don't think I can do this, right? When you're questioning me, instead of simply listening. But those are some really common ones. I'm trying to think the over explaining, like I talked about. You give them a suggestion. They're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. And then you try to give it again because you think it's really good. If you explain it just one more time, okay. And then eventually it's the eye roll, the shutdown, the leave the room, whatever it is. Those are some really common ones for parents.
So if you're wanting to connect to your teen, and that's why you're asking the questions, where were you? Who were you with? Or
Hmm.
maybe you're even concerned about that. It could be a concern that you have because you're worried about the friends they're hanging out with.
Hmm.
Either direction. What is a way that you would approach that where you're wanting to get information from your teen, but you don't want them to feel like, they're in the spotlight across the interrogation table?
Yes. Well, the first thing that I tell any parent, any mom to do is start building connection because connection is what makes a better relationship, better communication possible. And because a lot of these ways that we communicate create disconnection and distance, we have oftentimes have to just rebuild that. And so small ways, one conversation at a time, one interaction at a time. The simple one, the easiest one is when your teen actually does talk, then invite them to say more. And so give them an opportunity with a judgment free invitation to say more about whatever it is that's going on without jumping in with the trying to correct. I have a mom that I worked with. She was in class like the night before, and we talked about this. Just do this quick start connection. She was picking her daughter up from school in high school at that point, very distanced, very divided. Her daughter got in the car and she just started rattling off what was going on in school, what was happening in the lunchroom, blah, 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 what was happening with the teacher. And it was like everything for her to just bite her lip and not try to correct, not try to ask more. She just said, "Oh, well, what happened then?" Or, or, "Oh, wow, that must have been hard." And just kept her talking for 15 minutes. Her daughter went on this. I think her daughter was 13 at the time. Got home and the daughter said, "Wow, mom, thanks for listening. That's really what parents need to do anyway." I mean, it was just, she was flabbergasted that this actually worked. And it sometimes there's going to be different levels of connection, right? That you're in as a parent, but just taking that time. And I just really encourage moms, think about it. When do you feel loved? When do you feel connected to someone? It's when they are listening to you and they're not trying to fix it. They're not trying to say, "Oh, I experienced that too." They're trying to just listen and hear where you are and what you have to say and understand. So,
You're speaking of the listening and not trying to fix it. One thing I've taught in the past and just basic communication skills with people is celebrating their good news. And
mm.
so often, like when they get excited about something and they bring it to you, like, oh, you won't believe what just happened. I got invited to go dirt biking. And you're like, wow. And you're like, you want to jump in and fix everything.
Right.
But taking a moment to celebrate the good news with them before you come in and try to make sure they're not going to kill themselves on the mountainside
Yes.
can really affect how much that connection is and how often they're going to come back with good news again. Just taking that moment to celebrate with them and listen and not trying to fix everything. So,
Yes,
um,
absolutely. And to take that just even a little bit further, uh, once you're celebrating with them, then like, "Oh, wow, what are you excited about that? What is it about that that you're excited?"
yes,
Really leading with that curiosity and
right.
that kind of thing. And even sometimes if I know, because it's like, wait, what are you going to go do? But even pausing and taking some time, maybe a few hours, before you come back at that, if you want to talk to them. But just I mean, I love that because you're building connection in that moment, and they are feeling loved and validated, and that you're with them. That's powerful.
Yes. That was a very simple thing that changed some of my relationships is understanding. Just take a breath and enjoy it and let them live in that joy for a little bit before you jump onto something else.
Yeah.
So now, one thing when you're stressed about something or you're a parent and you see your child doing something you think is pretty boneheaded, and
Hmm.
you're like, don't do that. It's really hard to control those emotions in the morning and in the moment. So, how do you recommend that parents stay anchored in that calm and that peace and to keep the child from pulling away? Or if they are pulling away, how does the parent stay anchored in that moment when they see their child doing things that are the wrong decision and they want to fix it, but it's not theirs to fix anymore?
Mm. Oh boy, that's powerful because that's what makes all of this work, really, is that ability to stay emotionally grounded. I teach it like being anchored in your identity in Christ, knowing who you are, that your child's behavior is not a measurement of who you are as a person, of who you are as a mom. And oftentimes we take that on. And so then when we're operating in that kind of not enough, then we kind of go over the
Right.
top because I mean, I used to measure my reputation based on what my kids did or didn't do. And that's just, it's very stressful because every time you're with someone or out in public, you're worried about what are they going to do? What are they going to say? When am I going to get a phone call about something that they did that wasn't right or, whatever it is. And so separating that I think our identity from our kids' choices is really, really important. That I am who I am and I am enough, and they are who they are, and they are navigating life just like I did. I find a lot of times as parents of teens, we forget a little bit what it was like, and we expect because of the way that we raised our kids that somehow they're way more mature, like we are in our late 30s, 40s, that they need to be at these years. And so it's hard to give grace sometimes, especially if our identity, our who we are, is wrapped up in that, right? So that's a really important separation to start to make. And then, secondly, deciding what you want. What do you want in this relationship? And being really clear about that. I actually have moms write it down because there's this analogy when you're on this ship and your relationship is going this certain
Mhm.
direction, it only takes a very small shift of the rudder to turn it another direction, right? But if you stay on the same path, you're not going anywhere. But when you know where you're going,
Mhm.
okay, then it's easier to get there. And so deciding what you want, what that looks like. Do you want more influence? You want more connection? You want better conversations? Whatever it is, write it down and then choose connection as your goal because that one is super powerful. When we make that choice that I want to connect with you no matter
Mhm.
what, it can help lead and guide you in that direction. Yet, when we anchor our identity in Christ, when we take a pause, we breathe. This is really more helpful if you do it before the conversation and you get in a practice and habit of
Mhm.
doing that before interacting with your kids. Because when we take that time to breathe, when we take that time to be still, some moms will read scriptures, some will just remind them, okay, I am a beloved daughter. I am the best mom for my kids. However, it is that you like to say that or walk through that, whatever you can do to steady yourself. And you've probably got lots of techniques that you're teaching your listeners as
Right.
well there to steady yourself emotionally and then going into those conversations is going to help you be able to do that. But even if you're in the middle of it and you start to lose it, you can take a breath. You can go to the bathroom. You can say, hey, how about a drink? I'm going to get a cup of coffee or tea or whatever. You can kind of step out for those moments before bringing yourself back in because it takes a little bit of
Yeah.
practice, okay, at first when you're doing this. And just anything that, I mean, I used to listen to like a meditation or devotional beforehand as I was getting used to this. I used to pray, all of that kind of thing, whatever works for you. And okay, I should say this, practicing with a friend, someone that you
Yes.
trust, that you can talk to help you practice with. It's just about using the skills and getting used to
Mhm.
them having them become more second nature. So those are, I don't know, those are a lot of things that people can try.
Yes, there's some very practical things, though. I like that. And I also like the preparing ahead of time and trying to ground
Mhm.
yourself and regulate your nervous system a little bit before you step into that, and
Mhm.
some prep work ahead. And also when you're in the middle of it, I have found honesty works really great. You can just say, and especially, I
Yes.
mean, teens, oh my goodness, they can spot a lie a mile away. So if you just tell them, hey, look, I'm getting anxious right now, so I'm going to take a step back. I would assume, again, I'm not an expert on teens, but that's going to go over a lot better than trying to fake your way through it. Just saying, hey, look, I
Absolutely.
I needed a little bit of a break. I am getting out of
Mhm.
control. And not necessarily, you are, but I am. Like, I'm getting too anxious, I'm getting
Mhm.
wound up. So I just need to take a step back for a minute and just take a little bit of a break. Just being honest with them
Yeah.
and letting them know what's going on. I think that would build more trust and reaffirm
Mhm.
that connection you're trying to build.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think even getting to the point where you can share honestly that, hey, you know what? I'm in fear right now. I care about you. I love you. And I'm just concerned that you're going to go get on that bike and you're going to go over a cliff or whatever it is. Like just being real. I mean, our kids understand fear, right? They understand insecurity. They understand what those things are like. So I totally agree that the more that we can be honest and truthful with what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, our love for them, right? Because sometimes if we're trying to fix and correct and protect, it doesn't come across as love. I mean, when my kids were little and they were learning to ride bikes and they'd run out, right out in the street, I would start yelling at them like I was angry. But I wasn't angry, right? I was scared. I was scared because I didn't want a car to come or them to fall off or whatever it is. And just being truthful about those things is powerful. Absolutely.
We are going to be airing the balance of this conversation with Terri in our very next podcast. So stay tuned. That'll drop in just a few days, and you can catch the balance of this incredible conversation. Hey, my friend. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with someone you know who may be struggling with depression and anxiety? Also, would you please leave a quick review for the show? Knowing how this podcast is helping you fills my heart with so much joy, and it motivates me for future episodes. For now, it's time for Sam and I to head outside to enjoy some sunshine and fresh air. We'll see you back here on Tuesdays and Thursdays for more great episodes.